Good morning, everyone. This is Yoga Amy here with the beautiful Sylvia. And I am here today to chat with Sylvia in regards to um, her yoga experiences. And she has just reminded me that we've now been working together for 4 years. I can't believe it's already been four
I
years.
know.
Where does time go? But I wanted to chat with you, Sylvia, in regards to what you have learned in yoga, what you have learned over the last year in particular, and how your body has made changes over the last 4 years working together. So, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Amy, for everything that you do for all of us yoga girls. And I can definitely say it has been a miracle to my own self. I started taking yoga about 6 years ago. But the first 2 years well, it was really a year and a half. We did strict floor yoga, and it was up, down, up, down, up, down. It's not like the yoga that you teach, which I think is much more for our ages and everything. And I just wanted to tell you about an experience as far as doing the yoga is concerned. And this happened about almost about 3.5 years ago. My granddaughter and I were out shopping, and the sidewalk had a bump in it, and somebody had evidently removed the sign because it was off, and we didn't notice it. And I stumbled, and I am telling you, I was going down. And I said, "Oh, can't do this, can't do this. Now watch out, watch out. Now watch your yoga. Bring your legs up." I was doing this all to myself and everything like that. And I'm telling you, my legs, my hips, my core, and everything was so strong from the yoga that I had taken from you that I was able to bring myself up. And my granddaughter said, "Oh my gosh, Grandma, what a great job." And there were people, unbeknownst to me, that was watching, and they clapped. And somebody from the store came out and said, "Oh gosh, I'm so glad you didn't fall. That was a miracle," because someone had taken the sign down. So I'm telling you, I used all my muscles and I was real sore, but I didn't fall, and I would have surely broken something,
Yeah,
especially at my age. So
that
it,
outcome could have had a completely different feel. So, congratulations to
oh,
you
thank you.
for mentally clicking in with all of your alignment principles.
Oh,
That's good.
yeah. I'm telling you, though, for the next 2 days, boy, my core, hips, thighs, and everything was so sore. They really had a workout. But
And that's
anyway,
that's a
and
good thing. That's when you know you've done it right.
oh, yeah, I know.
Well,
So
fantastic.
anyway, so it has been really a blessing. And then, like for the first 2 years, we did in the studio and of your studio, which was wonderful, and we're able to see the girls. And then due to the COVID virus, we started doing the Zoom. And that took a little bit getting used to, but now you feel real comfortable. And the reason why I like it is because we're allowed to go on about 15 minutes early, so us yoga girls can sort of chit chat and tell what each other what's going on and ask questions and stuff like that, but before you come in and mute us. Because you know how a bunch of gals are. And then we get in and to do our chair yoga. And the reason why I like chair yoga at this state in my life is due to the fact that about a year ago, well, in January, I had to have a spinal infusion. So I went to a orthopedic spinal physician, and at the time when he examined me, he told me, he said, "You know, you're real strong for your age and everything like that." And so then after I had my surgery, there was limitations and stuff like that. He said I couldn't do any yoga or anything like that for 3 months. And so when I started back with my yoga, and he would check my reflexes in my legs and everything, and he said, "Oh," he said, "you're really wonderful." I said, "Well, is that yoga?" And he said, "Oh, it is." He said, "Because a lot of people just have such poor muscle tone when they get a certain age, and they don't realize that they might walk or bicycle, but he says you've got to do more than that. And with your class, we do arms, legs, and everything, and that's really been a blessing. And
Yeah, and
then
there's some times in our chair yoga class where we're just seated, and then there's other times where we're about half and half, where we're seated
right,
and then standing.
that's
So
exactly right.
I try to mix it up for you guys so it's not the same every single time, right? It's not, there's some things that we do that are similar each time, but not
Not
always.
the same, because if it was the same like that, you would have like muscle memory. I mean, you wouldn't be doing anything else. So yes, you do. You mix it up with the core and the standing, and and I like with the toes going up and stuff like that, because that gives you so much strength in your thighs and everything. And then after that, you can you hear that rustling?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Ollie in paper.
Oh, he knows the voice, and so
I
he
know.
comes to visit.
Whenever he hears your voice, he comes running in. So anyway, and I like that too, because you work on different segments of the body at different times. And with the chair, you do standing up and holding on to the chair and stuff like that. And and at this age too, I find out that my balance isn't what it used to be. So I really have to work on that.
So how have you been enjoying this week of balance poses? Just breaking it down one day with 5 minutes working on a pose. How's that been for you?
Well, that's been good, but I still have, and I get upset with myself, and I know I shouldn't, where standing on one leg and lifting it up and stuff like that without holding on to something, I have to use one hand still, and I get frustrated at that. But at least it's not, it's something that needs to be worked on.
So
But
your experience when you were at Costco and you had that near fall take place, that was our day one pose that you mentally started to process to pull yourself back up. So mountain pose, Tadasana pose, that idea of being drawn up and in, that's the foundation. So props to you for remembering, because it can be rather intense to think about all of the principles of Tadasana pose, but to be able to pull all that up and in, and then to do that on a daily basis, from a muscle memory standpoint, that's actually a really good thing.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Are you finding your height has shifted? Are you feeling taller? Are you feeling different?
Oh yes, I did. Oh, and I stand up. Something I have noticed mainly, that as people get older, mainly women, they start getting that hump, in their back.
Yeah.
And I always said, I am not having that hump in my back. And with your class and everything, we are always taught to straighten up, pull our shoulders back and our chin forward, but not up or down. And that makes a big difference. And and while you're walking, you mentally tell yourself, "Uh-oh, I'm slumping here. I'm slumping here. Got to straighten up, get them shoulders up." So it makes a big difference in your stature and how you hold yourself as you get older.
Yes, it really does. Now, over this past year, when we've been doing everything online, you actually were starting to attend more classes per week. Did you happen to notice a difference at that point with your strength and stability, attending more classes per week?
Oh yes.
And your schedule was more open at that time frame too. You weren't out and about and doing.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. And also, I like the idea that if I miss something, I don't. It's not forgotten because I can go back in and pull it up and do it on my own time
In the library,
in the
yes.
library. Yes,
Yeah.
I like that.
In the
Yeah.
on-demand library. Absolutely. Well, that's a good reminder too. So yeah, as part of your membership, you have access to that online library, and
Right.
not only doing your live classes and being able to talk to everybody before practice, but also to then access that in addition. So yeah, there's a lot of little perks, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, it's true because even though you're on Zoom, you do have some socialization too, which is also very important.
Yes. And
Uh,
one thing I have been observing over this last year in particular is that, because if you remember, now you always showed up early at the studio, but when I had my brick and mortar and I started class, I always went to the front door and I locked the front door
oh, right.
so that we were not disrupted during class. So if somebody arrived late, that was a bit of an issue because then they couldn't come in. And if they knocked on the door, they weren't let in.
They were ignored.
So with Zoom, if somebody arrives late, they're already muted when they enter into the practice.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's
I didn't
not,
think about that, but
yeah,
yes.
so that part's not a distraction. But I have to say, most of you all log in early because you do like that social time. So it's been
Yes.
wonderful to see that bond continue beyond.
Oh, yes. And it
Yes,
certainly has continued too.
yes, yes. Well, great. So what what else have you noticed over this past year? So you mentioned your back surgery and
And in
that,
fact, I just went back for my, let's see, it was in January. So I just went back a Monday and, and he checked me out and he said, I'm telling you, he said, as far as your healing and your process of what you're able to do, it exceeds above average. And he said, and I know what you're going to say, and you're right. It's because of that yoga. And I think he really he really knows the importance of it because with his profession and what he has to do, a lot of people have to go to physical therapy and work for physical therapists and stuff like that. Whereas I sort of do that every time I come to your class.
yeah, there are a lot of similarities between physical therapy and a yoga practice. So yes, absolutely. Has there been something new that's come up for
Oh,
you?
yes. Well, as a result of this, I have started getting some discomfort in my right shoulder. And I said, oh my gosh, from all this not able to do certain things that you had to use my arm, at the very beginning, I bet you I had pulled a muscle. So I called my primary doctor and I went in to see him. And he said, he said, I think it's got bursitis. And he says, but I want you to have an x-ray. So, so I went and had an x-ray and I came back to him and he said, I am astonished, Sylvia. He says, because you have severe arthritis in that shoulder, and I just can't get over how much mobility that you have in your shoulder. And he says, and I know that you do yoga, and boy, that has really made a difference
Yeah.
in,
So
in your
the importance of when discomfort arises to actually continue to create movement versus just not doing anything. Would you
yeah.
say that that's been your process?
Well, yes, but now when this really started happening, remember how I couldn't really put my arm up and everything like that because it was really bothering me. So he gave me a cortisone shot. And boy, and as you can see, I'm much more able to do that now. I mean, it's with some discomfort, but that will dissipate as I get more mobility in it and stuff. And boy, that's made a difference too. I
Yeah.
have a I have a very dear friend of mine, and she is a walker. She's in a walking group, and she walks every single day. And I mean, with her group, and they do walking. They do fast walking. They don't do the slow chitty chat walk, you know. And I told her, I said, now that walking is absolutely wonderful, Mary. I said, but you know, you need to get some, do some more things that requires your core and your rotation of your arms and your stuff like that. So I mentioned it to her, but she doesn't seem to agree. You know how we get, she's a couple of years older than I am. So she's comfort with that, and at least she's doing something, but still.
Well, change is hard when you're in your
Yeah.
little routine. Change is hard, and a lot of people think that yoga is to tie yourself up in a knot.
Oh, I know.
What kind of yoga do I teach? You've been with me long enough. What give an example of how I teach or what you
Well,
learn?
well, you do a certain type of more or less like a gentle yoga, and you always tell us that we have options. If we can't do it, just don't do it. Listen to our own bodies. But you do still have to attempt to do it, because if you don't, you're not progressing or anything. And then you give us alternatives like, okay, now if you feel comfortable, I'm going to do one thing that's higher up to do. I forgot that word you use. What is it?
Challenge.
Oh, yes, challenge. Okay, now I'm going to give you, and you always give us challenges. And I like that, because I don't feel beat up on myself if I attempt it and can't do it. It's a challenge.
Yes, and that's true of this past week as well. That's the whole point of this past week, the 5 poses of balance,
Yes.
where we break down one pose every day. And I'm even throwing out challenges within that one pose, because there's different
yes, right. Yes,
there's different ways that you can do that as well. But you're right. If we do the same thing every single time, the body just becomes used to it.
Yeah, used to it, right.
Back in
And
the
I
day,
like that idea about how you say, like, with these 5 poses, and it says now, like, when you're brushing your teeth, stand up on your toes, and and so I've got your voice in my head, and I said, oh gosh, I'm going to be a bad girl if I don't do this, so let me. So you're always present, if not in person, in mind.
it's the voice in your head.
Yes.
And so when somebody says to you, what are you doing? Well, it's the voice in my head telling me to lift my heels up.
Oh, and speaking of that, I do want to tell you that when we could travel and stuff like that, and my sister and I travel a lot, and we go a lot to Europe, Norway, certain places like that. And you have long trips. And so I'm able to do some of that yoga in my chair, in the seat with my legs. And my sister say, oh God, here you go again. I said, well, I gotta, because they don't allow you to get up and walk anymore.
Right.
So and so I do some of the ones that I'm able to do while I'm sitting in the airplane, and that helps a lot too.
And that's really important, to keep the blood flow into your legs.
Yes.
Now, I want to mention as well, with your background as a nurse,
Yes.
you have a little bit different viewpoint of this, and so that is one in particular where that a blood clot could ultimately become present. So I appreciate you talking about that as well.
And as far as driving is concerned too,
Yeah, road trips especially. You've got to get out. I have always told you guys that whenever you do a road trip, when you stop for gas, walk around your car twice.
Yes.
If that's all you need to do, walk around your car twice, do an L pose up against the side of your car, get your back and your legs stretched out, and you've got it made. So
that's right. Just a little things can make a big difference.
Yep. And what so that's fantastic. Well, Sylvia, you have just always been a delight to have in practice, and I'm so excited to have this shared with others to give them inspiration to continue to move forward. And those of you joining us and watching, if you have a comment and you want to leave it here in the feed and ask Sylvia directly. She's pretty active in their group, so feel free to ask that. And if she doesn't see it, I'll make sure that she gets that. But if you have any other questions about yoga classes specifically with me, I did drop a sampling of yoga classes into this group as well. I think I did that yesterday. And so if any other questions come up, please reach out. Let us know. I always love to hear the success stories and what's going on. And remember, I have asked people to post a photo. If you have somebody who can take a photo of you doing one of your balances, drop that in that day's video so that we can see progress. I love it. Sylvia, thank you again so much. You are an absolute delight, and I so appreciate your commitment to your body.
Well,
And
thank you, Amy.
namaste. You are beautiful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.